If you are a contributor, you are not the task leader for this particular assignment. Well, number one, you will have an opportunity to be a task leader on a future assignment. So if you were disappointed in that, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, don't worry. You will be at some point in this course. You will work with your task leader. I expect all of the groups to meet virtually at least once a week and then collaborate on the ideas. And you should have a pretty good idea of the first three sections interacting with your task leader, even if you are waiting for them to really flesh out those sections. Everybody should be in sync. But if you're a contributor, your role in this assignment, in fact, a contributor in all subsequent assignments, is you will be addressing the scenarios, the stories, and you will be updating the claims analyses for each of them. And so for this assignment, okay, you are responsible for creating the foundational stories for the assignment. And you have a more robust example in slide deck 2 when you listen to the narration. Basically, the stories that were created there were based on a physical science fair. Even though the goal is to create a virtual science fair experience for high schoolers, the stories you start off with is the as is, or the physical science fair in the high school gym, or wherever they have it. Maybe the high school gym, they spread out to the cafeteria, wherever they have it. You are telling the story, describing all of the activities from that perspective. Now, here's the thing. You are going to create some personas. You're going to take the original stakeholders, those roles, and then you're going to personalize them, instantiate them as personas. So I expect everybody to listen to the first two user experience YouTube videos as well, so you have an understanding of what that looks like. So by this time, if you have not looked at the video for the task leader, make sure you do that, because what I'm going to do is the initial guidance I give in that video corresponds to you as well. So I'm going to fast forward down to the sections you're responsible for, which are sections 4 and 5. And I hope I'm not making you too dizzy by my scrolling through this. So I am looking at the assignment 2 worksheet. Okay. So again, I've laid out a format for you. I want you to reuse this format, reuse these tables. The first thing you need to do is identify the 2 or 3 stakeholders, and maybe it's just one stakeholder. See how it works, and I'll give you feedback as well. But develop personas for those stakeholders. Specifically, give them a name, give them an age. All right, what stakeholder are you identifying? So if you're looking at this in terms of the virtual grocery store example that I've given, one stakeholder role would be shopper. So I would put shopper here. And then motivations. Well, where can you pull their motivations? What I would suggest is take a look at the section with stakeholder backgrounds. All right. So background, their expectations, preferences, things like that, and list at least 3 major motivations for this persona. What are their goals? What's the main goal? What are some sub-goals? And then technical ability. Do you expect them to be an expert user? They're an expert with technology. If you're requiring them to be an expert with technology to use your design, then obviously that's something that is going to have to be built in. And it's okay. It's okay if they're going to have some specialized training. You just need to identify that up front, and you do that by identifying them in this persona. So before you create the scenarios, the stories, identify these personas. Just like if you take a fiction course, my wife took one, I never did, but I understand from writing, what you do is you develop the characters and their stories first before putting the story together. And that's very similar in this as well. All right, and then finally, creating the stories, the scenarios themselves. Again, use the couple of examples from the slide deck that you had. What I'm expecting is, that you create a mini story. Now, normally in a story, you start off with the background and then you kind of build up to a climax and then you resolve it. In these stories, it's a little bit different. I want you to build up to a climax and maybe you resolve it, but it's an unsatisfying resolution. Okay. And I'm guessing that either you're not going to jump down from the climax of the story or it's going to be a little bit unsatisfying, or else you have no reason for coming up with your user experience design. All right. So build that story. Okay. And it's okay to add a little bit of personal drama in there and really walk through, because that's where you're going to learn to address certain challenges with your design. So you will create only one scenario. Each contributor will create one scenario, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, however long it takes you. And then in section 5, for your scenario, I want you to create a claims analysis. I want you to look at the example in the slide 2 in PowerPoint slide 2 deck, the slide deck for module 2, and look at the example that Carol and Royalson use to do this for the virtual science fair. They have it's quite a bit more developed, but what they do is they pick a situation feature from the scenario. So in terms of my example scenarios, if I'm creating a virtual grocery store and my initial scenarios in assignment 2 are as is, there's going to be a physical storefront. What are the pluses and minuses for a physical storefront? Also, the shopper has a limited time frame, maybe, that they're doing this. We're not stating that up front, but you read the story and say, oh my gosh, people who do shopping, they do it, going to work, coming home from work. They have a limited time frame. That's a theme that has emerged. And what are the pros and cons of that kind of feature? I expect that you will have about 4 to 5 situation features that you will pull out of your scenarios. And then finally, for everyone, just a reminder to do section 6 together. So that is what you are responsible for as a contributor.